Welcome to Eureka Epoch, bringing Urantia book insights to life through storytelling, visuals, and inspired exploration. Subscribe for more.
In the deep twilight of Urantia's early history, long before recorded time and long before Adam and Eve set foot in the garden, there walked two figures whose courage would shape the fate of the world. Van, a celestial administrator from the ranks of the prince's staff, and Amadon, a mortal descendant of the original human pair, Andon and Fanta. Van was no ordinary being. Assigned as the head of spiritual coordination under Prince Caligastia, he held immense responsibility in the early planetary government. He was brilliant, steady, and unshakably loyal to the divine order of Nebadon. Amadon, on the other hand, was a modified Andonite, one of the 100 human volunteers who had been biologically uplifted to serve the prince's mission. Though humble and of no special intellect, Amadon's heart was firm, and his loyalty would become legendary. Then came the rebellion. When Caligastia declared allegiance to Lucifer and seduced many of the celestial beings into open revolt, Van stood firm. While others wavered, he resisted. He drafted an appeal to the Most Highs and denounced the rebellion in a 7-hour address. Where fear swept across the hearts of many, Van remained calm, organizing the loyal ones and preserving what little order remained. And Amadon, mortal simple yet steadfast, chose to stand by him. When most of the human and midware staff fell under Caligastia's influence, only a handful refused. Among them, Amadon stood first. Through intimidation, deception, and the subtle allure of promised power, Caligastia tried to bend the mortal's will, but Amadon would not yield. Together, Van and Amadon gathered the faithful, 40 loyal humans, a band of angels, midwayers, and cherubim. They withdrew from the corrupted cities and climbed into the highlands near a great lake, later known as Lake Van. From there, they began the impossible, to preserve the light of truth during 150,000 years of planetary isolation. This was not a mythic age of magic or miracles. It was an age of silence, of waiting. The circuits were cut. Urantia was alone, and yet Van and Amadon built. They organized, they taught, they lived. Under the life extension ministries of the Melchizedeks and sustained by the Tree of Life, Van and Amadon continued their work for over 150 millennia. The loyal Andonite bloodline, those 144 men and women who followed Amadon, multiplied and spread. These Amadonites would become the spiritual and biological core of future humanity, preserving the memory of Dalmatia and the original teachings of the Planetary Prince. In time, their legacy was no longer a memory, it was a presence. Van established over 350 centers of civilization, training leaders, reforming tribal structures, even developing an early 24-letter alphabet to help preserve knowledge. He patiently taught of a promised son to come, one who would uplift humanity, guide it into a new age. And when the time came, when Adam and Eve finally descended upon Urantia, it was Van and Amadon who met them in the garden, who handed over stewardship of the planet, and who quietly stepped aside. They had done their part. For their service, Van and Amadon were taken by seraphic transport to the capital of the system. Van was reunited with his thought adjuster and recognized by the universe as a faithful son. Amadon, the mortal who defied a planetary prince, entered the halls of Jerusalem, immortalized not for brilliance, but for courage. Their names are written into the forgotten foundations of Urantia. They were not kings, they were not conquerors, they were keepers of the flame in an age of darkness, and through them the light endured.